Alright, we're buying the new packs, Dragon Ball and Suikoden 2. I have no attachment to either of these franchises whatsoever. But that's cool. It's always fun when new cards are released, and it's very clear some people are excited about these, and that's awesome for them. And yeah, so anyhow, some of us can hold out for the gloried Shadow Hearts deck, but I think I'd be the only person excited. I think a hell of a lot more people were excited for these two. So that's cool. All right, let's buy some packs. Let's start with Dragon Ball. I think that's the one people are excited about. I'm going to give my brief history with Dragon Ball. Um, when I was 11 or 12, I had a friend, an odd name. He had multiple names he alleged were his real name, though he went by a nickname. He once got another kid in trouble when he was like 7 and set a fire in the boys' bathroom at the school. Impressive achievement. He loved Dragon Ball. Loved Dragon Ball. Z. And I went over to his house, and I remember he put on a few episodes of a some fighting tournament arc. Don't remember it well. Many years pass. I am now in my 20s, I guess. And I decide I've never had an anime phase. I gotta try some animes. And I have no idea how I ended up on the shows that I tried. I watched one episode each of some popular things, like Death Note and Attack on Titan. I think I'd been told they were smart. I did not find them so. And then I think I watched like all of Berserk, which I also kind of hated. Um, though it had parts that were maybe a little more appealing than those other two. And I watched some Claymore. Didn't like it either, but managed to make it through a few episodes. And I watched maybe 10, 15 episodes of Dragon Ball, not Z. And I didn't like that either. So it seems plausible that anime is not for me. I love Studio Ghibli. I think their stuff is great. I think the stuff okay, no one cares about this, but I think the stuff aimed for kids is just like it's just not my sense of humor. There is stuff aimed for kids I like. The stuff that's in anime tends to just not be for me. That's fine. That happens. And the stuff aimed for adults I have different problems with, but I think those would be more insulting to say to people that like them. So we'll just buy some packs and see what we get. Okay. So the first thing I notice is the first three cards all have like, well, not the same face, but man, the art style is very distinctive on these. Yeah. I feel like I should have things to say. I do not. I also don't know how many packs I'm able to buy. 5771. Do you think that's a level 5 or a level 6? It's probably a level 5. It's probably a level 5 because I know level 5s are one of the ones where they're running relatively low on cards. I like 6633s. I think those are fun to have more of. They sort of have a little clunkier feel than 6632s, but very playable and interesting to play. I think 5771 is very interesting because it feels like, wow, that's a lot of power on a level 5. But 4771 ends up having all the plus walls, and 5771s end up feeling like this interesting alternative. So I like those inclusions. I like the card on the right most. I think that's my favorite visually card we've seen. That one looks the silliest to me. All right. I'll just pick my favorite looking card each time. I guess it's the one on the left. Maybe I just like the the sillier faces. I like how Chrono Trigger looks more than I like how Dragon Ball looks. Is that a hot take? That might be a hot take. All right, what else we got? 7622 is a nice card to include. Oops, didn't mean to go back, meant to reload. All right. Uh, don't have a favorite card here. 9663s always feel so clumsy to me. That doesn't mean like we shouldn't make more of these cards. Um, just thinking about the numbers a bit. All right. That person has too many eyes on the right. All right. Should probably be going through these faster because if anyone just wants to see packs open, this is pretty slow. Just thought maybe I'll see something interesting. All right, that's seven Dragon Ball packs. Let's try some Suikoden packs. All right, we already have a dupe. Um, yeah, so this is it's interesting to compare the Suikoden 2 art style here for the portraits of the faces to Suikoden 3 and 4 because you often find something where like the earlier the game is, the more distinct the portraits look from the in-game graphics. And the more they can make those two look the same with the portraits looking good and like the in-game graphics, the more they'll look the same. But that can mean if the portraiture was initially at a higher level than the in-game graphics, as you know, if the portraitures are an 8, right? The portraits are an 8 and the graphics are a 4, then you have like in-game looks like a 4, but the portraits look like an 8. But if the in-game gets up to a 6 and they're like, "Okay, that's close enough to the portraits. Let's make the portraits in the in-game graphics." Then the portraits just got worse looking. I think there's a case. I haven't looked at Suikoden 3 cards in a while. I think there's a case you could look at these and be like, these are nicer looking than the Suikoden 3 graphics. Not sure anyone will agree with that, and I'm not sure I do. 4499. It's going to be a level 9. Okay. Okay. Man, I'm not good at pack opening videos. Yeah. Trying to think what's 1887 feels like one of those cards that suddenly might hit on particular stips and tournaments. But I'm not sure it does because when nines are excluded, you sometimes want the 1886 or 2688 type thing more. But if you need something that like hits nines but doesn't have a nine itself, I can see that card getting play. I need some higher level stuff here. Obviously, my favorite card is the middle one. Has by far the best mustache. I remember I was playing. We were playing a basketball game in high school, and we went to some school that was way out in the middle of nowhere, and they had one fan that came to watch them. Maybe someone's dad. I don't know. But he had the most amazing mustache. It was the only person I've seen in real life who had a mustache kind of like this that wasn't like made up for a movie or something, right? Oh, I like A882s. When I was running some like tests with the solver where I took, I don't know, five different hands and five different opposing hands. Except for the five hands for our side, I only picked four of the cards. And then the fifth card was a card of each possible level 10 type of number. And I tested how they changed the win percentage. And because I gave them multiple hands, it and sometimes it was on first turn, sometimes it was on second turn. It was meant to, I think it was five hands for each turn, so maybe 10 hands total, where I subbed in these cards. And it was meant to see, like, how much does it change, what the kind of true win percentage of each of these cards is. And it wasn't the most exacting experiment, but it was really high on A88s. Though I think they are one of those cards that is basically linearly how good it is how many nines there are. The fewer nines there are, the better these cards are. If you know your opponent will not run any nines, you should probably just spam A88s. Like, they have a pretty good matchup against, for instance, 8876s, because anytime you can target someone's top number with a number plus an A, you just have such powerful same wall potential. And that's going to overpower their 8-6 combination. The 8A combination is more powerful. So A88s, if you know your opponent doesn't like cards with nines, the worst thing to see is often like 9965s or the like. But more likely, if you know they like to run A964s, that can be a very serious problem for these. On the other hand, if they just run one A964, one card your hand is really clumsy against is usually not so bad. Okay, see some more cards. All right. Another 8871. So there must have not been very many 8871s because we've now seen two of them printed. I also think we've seen a bunch of 6442s, which is um, probably a level 2, maybe a level 3. Totally reasonable card. Also, 7/5/4/2s. Those get a ton of play on level 3 when level 6 when 6/6s are banned. And they're pretty interesting to play with, I think. They're like just clumsy enough to be bad sweepers, but just powerful enough that if you set them up right, they feel really good. I like playing with 7/5/4s, and I like watching people play with 7/5/4s. Um, 6/6/1/1, sure. All right. We see the 1788 again. 7/6/3/1. Yeah. I wish there were more like debates over the years of like instead of just kind of deciding 7/6/3/2s were the best. Like, okay, 7/6/3/2s are better than 7/6/3/1s, are better than 7/6/2/2s. And I guess they just are better than 7/6/3/3s. But I would have liked like there to be, I don't know, really partisan divides between people that like 7/6/3/2s and people that like 7/6/4/1s. I think that would have been fun if people were like adamant that their card was better. My instinct is 7/6/3/2s are better, but I don't know. Like this is not something I'm all that confident on, and I think someone very strong, very reasonably could be on the other side of that debate. And then there's the question of do 7/6/4/3s, if those are printed, make those obsolete? One thing I really like about 7/6/4/3s is traditionally, and I think this is still the case, there were only two of them and they were for the same corner. The FF6 card 3674 and the Xenogears card 4673, which meant you couldn't really run a lot of them, but you could run one if you wanted to, and I was never sure if that was a better decision than 7/6/3/2s, right? Because the 3/2 part makes the 6 really good and helps the 7 a little, right? Plus walls against 6s are nice to hit. The 7/6/4/1 helps the 7 a lot, basically doesn't help the 6 at all, though occasionally you'll see enemy 5s. But the 4/1 part also has some upside. And then 7/6/4/3s, the 3 helps the 6 and the 7 a little, and the 4 helps the 7. So there's kind of a case for all of those. 7/6/2/2, the 2s really just help the 6 and are somewhat redundant, right? There's a reason 7/6/3/2, 7/6/4/3, and 7/6/4/1 are the choices. But I'd be really curious, like, how do you rank those three cards? Like, if for some reason you had to side with one of them forever and you had enough cards of that type that you could do so, which would you pick? Let's go back to Dragon Ball if we have any more packs. I'm not sure we do. Okay. 8/8 corners and 8/8 stuff is always useful to have. I have gotten in fights over the years about whether 8/8s are better than 8/7/6/4s. Um, I've always liked 4/1/4/7 type things. I think it's nice to have those in each direction. And that's another one where, like, is a 4/1/4/7 better than a 4/2/4/7 or a 4/3/4/7? Or a 4/4/4/7, though those usually tend to be a level up. But oftentimes you'll combine level 3s and 4s, right? If there's level 1 through 4, sometimes level 3 cards do a little more what you want. I also like 2/6/3/7. That's a nice card. And I kind of like A8/4/4s on level 9. They don't feel like the most dynamic card, but they kind of hit hard and cover a corner. And that's worth something. They feel a little worse than A9/4/4s, of course, but sometimes they line up better with your hand. All right, a lot of cards yelling in this one. We got the yelling pack. So here's a question. For A756 type cards or A765, would you rather the spear or the wheel? Like this A567, I think of as a wheel where it goes like you can go around clockwise or counterclockwise and go from its strongest number to its weakest number. While a card like 9657 is a spear, right? The strongest number is opposite its weakest number. Normally, I like wheels a little, or often I like wheels a little more. Here, I kind of feel like the spear might be the stronger card. Why do I think that? I'm not sure. Some kind of instinct, pattern recognition. And I think we're done. Let's see if that applies to Suikoden as well. It does not. Okay, so we'll buy a few more packs. I didn't know they were on separate scales. Here's another 8817. I think that's not one of the ones we saw before. Yeah, this is a reasonable card to include more of. I definitely can think of some 8872 type things. And 8871 is very similar, so of course totally reasonable to print. Will be totally fine to play with. And a nice spotting that a card was missing. Shout out to Turds. 7516, I wonder if that's level 4 or level 5. There was always traditionally the 7651 at level 4, and there was only one of them. So it was a kind of interesting offbeat choice, and technically it is more raw power than anything else. And the 5-1 actually can play off itself fairly well, but the 5 and the 1 are really bad for kind of powering up the 7 and the 6. So that was another interesting one in the 7-6 debates. If you have 7643, 7641, 7632, 7651 provides something different. And if you take off plus wall, it suddenly becomes maybe an auto include in any hand, as long as it like makes sense for the other cards. Um, yeah, I'm curious which way this went. If it's on level 5, you know, it's not something you're ever going to put in a hand, but you don't like get upset if you see it in a random. And if it's on level 4, it's, oh, there's a new 765. I bet it's on level 5, because I know level 5 is the one where it's harder to find combinations, and we're running out of these 7-7 corners. And we're out of packs. Alright, well, there was a pack opening video of the new packs. If I hit any rares or semis, I did not notice, but I'm pretty sure I didn't. We can check that pretty easily. My cards, rares. And that's going to be a no. A lot of new rares and semis, right? 5 and 3. Incidentally, if anyone desperately needs a VV or something, Bot Club Spade will sell you one. I do have to sell them. I'm not, I like the bot club economy. I'm trying to, it's fun to try to max their accounts out too. But, and if you have any of these and want to trade them to Bot Club Spade. Yeah, so interesting to have 5 new rares and 3 new semis. That's fun. Let's look at the stats. So 8638, yeah, Smoke said this is a new laming choice. Yeah, I agree. 7671 is presumably at level 5. And that's, yeah, it is at level 5. I can read. I'm not a total buffoon. Yeah, so this brings to mind the 6717 back in the day. I sort of wish they had printed it as 6717 because Piggy's hand, his famous same plus combo hand, has not been usable. Obviously, it had the traditional cards for it. But if you're going to print this again as a semi-rare, I think it would have been cool if they'd made that hand existent again. Obviously, Galagros has changed. Maybe you can build it. Actually, let's I wonder if you can build it. Let's look at that in a sec. An 8852 at level 6. So 8852, there used to be like one level 7 like that. Like I think it was 2885 or 2588, but I think it was 2885. And it was just the most like raw power on an 8-8 corner at level 7. And so it's an appealing card. Or was that level 6? No, that would be level 6, because level 7 is 8854. Yeah, so we have one 8852 at level 6 already, and it feels kind of unique and distinctive, and making this a semi-rare, I like that choice. Yeah, I'm for that choice. I also think the 886 here, traditionally we have the 6818s. We didn't have 886 corners, but they don't seem to completely break the game or anything, though they are definitely strong. So I think I'm for all of these, though this one I wish was flipped the other way. And the rares. 10-2-1-2, sure, that's pretty similar to Poo-Poo's numbers, for example. We got 2 more Adia types, sure. We got, this one's like Eresh, sure. Yeah, these all look fine and good. I like it. I support all of it. I have no idea the importance of these characters, so I cannot speak to whether I like these as choices. But now I want to see, can we reconstruct the Piggy hand? So let's go to level 5. Or we can create hand, I guess. All level 5. So I don't have the 7671, so that won't show. This is probably not the most efficient way to find it. Yeah, let's go back. That's not going to be the way. So let's go to my cards. if it wants to load. My internet's been so bad. I'm trying to run bots when I can, but will help, buddy. It's spinning. Anyway, so the idea is Luke is. Let's check what Luke is again. Nope, not Dex. Levels. And Luke is 7671. So Piggy's hands start a 6717, so we need to sort of turn everything to the right. So 7671. That means his 7171 is going to need to be a 1717. So I can search 1717. Doesn't exist, but we might be able to. Could we do the same thing with a 2727? Probably not quite the same thing, but that does exist. Okay. And actually, you could imagine an upside because the 2727 facing into the 7671's 1 could plus sixes. And you do have a bunch of sixes in your hand facing, in Piggy's hand left and right, but in this hand up and down. So it's possible this doesn't work out too badly. And now we need, what do we need? 1766. That exists, okay. And we need to flip the we have 1766. And now we need 6716. Sorry, I'm trying to visualize. If you know this hand, you're trying to do the same. We have 6716. So these cards were in Suikoden. They were in FF9. And the other one was some early deck. So maybe we can make the hand. Obviously, we don't have Luke, but all 5. So one of the first 2 decks should have the 2727. It's nice if you can see the cards. And then we can go to FF9. And we get this guy. Possible we need 2766 instead. And then we go to Suikoden something. There should be this. Yeah. So the idea is going to be we put a 7671 in 5. And then we have these 2 671s flanking it. And we have the 2727 sort of doing weird utility work, but sometimes setting stuff up. And the last card. Well, no, we don't put the 7671 in 5. We put Galagros in 5. But of course, it's not Galagros. It's Galagros turned sideways, and Galagros, rest in peace, no longer exists. It's Iron Giant. Is this it? So we put Iron Giant in 5. We have the 2 677s flanking it. And Piggy's big innovation was against most moves you'd make, he would put what will now be 7671 in either 2 or 6 with the 7s facing out, and he's playing same plus combo. So that card is either just safe, or it is only takeable through combos through Iron Giant, and the rest of his cards would pretty reliably set up more combo potential on Iron Giant than you would expect. And so if he starts Iron Giant in 5, and you play a 7/7 corner in, it's now going to be 1 or 7, that 7/7 corner will be safe. And he knew this. And then he's going to put 7671 in 6. And now the 6/7/6s are going to sweep everything around the 7/7 corner you played, because they are now touching both the 6 of Iron Giant and the 7 of the card you played, so they can take anything you'd put in the other square, often with combo potential. Now, of course, he can't take 6s facing out. Like, so if he goes 5 and you play the corner in 1, and he goes 7/6/7/1 in 6, and you go in 2 with exactly a 6 to the right, though a lot of hands won't have that at this point, then he can't take that either. I do remember back in the day trying to like plan out hands that would beat his and always just being surprised at how resourceful he was and just how many games he won against players who had clearly like looked at his hand, gone, here is the weakness, I'm going to target it, and just failed to target it successfully. He's very, very clever about this. Anyways, one of the great hands. Obviously, we'd need 1717 to fully do it, but I do wish we can actually probably put in the closer to the original hand. Now, FF tactics changed, so we're going to need to use Ghost Ship. No, Ghost Ship changed too. Does 5656 still exist? Yes, Galagros came back. I forgot they did this. Thank you. Great job, Dalamar and Balls. We brought back Galagros. I forgot that had happened. Um, and then we need Cletion. That's also an FF Tactics card. Shout out to FF Tactics. We're going to need 7661 and 7171. 7171 is a DL card, right? Yes. And we just saw 7661 in Chrono Trigger. Now I scrolled past it, but we did find it. And the final card was the 6717. So yeah, my one complaint about the new cards, my one complaint, well, my two complaints. My first complaint is they didn't exactly build the decks I would appreciate most. This is not a real complaint. As people have said many times over the years, like, if you really want something on TTA, you gotta build it. And the people who are building it are going to make the things they're excited about, and that rules, and that means we get more things. And that's great. And we should not be spending our time complaining. Like, if people go, hey, what are people interested in? You throw out whatever you're interested in. But if they build something else because that's what they're excited about, that's awesome. We still got new stuff. It's great. They built something they can be proud of and that lots of people are going to appreciate. It's great. We should celebrate when people make new decks and when people put things together for this site we love, whether or not it is to our particular taste. And I may not have done a very good example of that today, but that is what I think is the correct response. But yeah, so my one real complaint is 7671 should have been 6717 as a remembrance of the glory days of what once were. Shout out to the Piggyman.